NMN, right. Everyone's talking about NMN these days. It's like the buzzword in the health world, promising everything from more energy to like actually turning back the clock.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten a lot of attention. People are always searching for that fountain of youth, and NMN seems to have really captured their imagination.
Absolutely. We even got sent this really interesting article about it from a listener, and I have to say, I'm pretty intrigued. But before we dive in, gotta be upfront. The article comes from a company that actually makes NMN supplements.
Right. Important to acknowledge that. Doesn't mean everything we're about to discuss is automatically invalid, but it's something to keep in mind as we explore this.
Totally agree. We're all about giving you the information, the tools to make your own informed decisions. That said, for those of us who haven't spent our lives in a science lab, what exactly is NMN?
Good question. It's like trying to explain a whole recipe when you only know one ingredient. But let's try. Inside every single cell in our bodies, there's this molecule. NAD+, stands for Nicotinamide Adenine Dinucleotide, but don't worry about trying to pronounce that.
Definitely not going to attempt that one.
You're better off sticking with NMN and NAD+, trust me. But anyway, NAD+ is vital for life, like as essential as the air we breathe. It's involved in hundreds of cellular processes.
Okay, so it's important stuff. Got it. But where does NMN come in? Is that where it gets made, the NAD+ stuff?
Almost. NMN is actually what your body uses to make NAD+ bullish. So think of it this way. You want to bake a cake, right? You need flour. NMN is like the flour, and NAD+ is that delicious cake. No flour, no cake, no NMN, less than ideal NAD+ levels in the body.
All right, so you're saying we want to make sure we have enough of that cake, that NAD+ spell, to keep things running smoothly.
Exactly. It's like the fuel that keeps our cells energized and functioning the way they should.
So then why do we hear so much about NMN supplements? If our bodies make it naturally, why do we need to think about adding more?
Well, here's the thing. Remember how I said NAD+ is like the life of the party inside our cells?
Right, keeps everything going.
Exactly. Well, as we get older, those NAD+ levels, they naturally start to decline. It's like the music slowly fades, the energy dips, and suddenly the party isn't quite as lively as it used to be.
Wait a minute, you're telling me this crucial life of the party molecule just starts disappearing as we get older? That's not what I wanted to hear.
I know, it's not exactly a fun fact, but that decline in NAD+ is linked to many of the things we associate with getting older. Less energy, slower metabolism, even an increased risk of certain health issues. It's a natural part of aging, but it doesn't mean we can't try to support our bodies along the way.
I'm sensing a but coming, and that's where NMN swoops in to save the day.
You could say that. The idea behind NMN supplements is to give our bodies a bit of a boost, more of what they need to create more of that essential NAD+ gun. Essentially trying to keep the music playing and the party going a little while longer.
All right, I like where this is going. It's like giving ourselves a VIP pass to keep the good times rolling. So we know that people are hoping NMN will do all sorts of amazing things, but is there any actual science to back it up?
That's the million-dollar question, right? I'm ready to unpack some of the research if you are.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's time we dug into what the studies actually say about NMN and its potential impact. Listeners, stick with us because this is where it gets really interesting. All right, let's talk benefits. The article you sent mentioned some pretty amazing possibilities: more energy, better metabolism, even protection against those not-so-fun things that tend to pop up as we age. What's got you most excited?
Well, it's true. Some of the claims floating around out there are definitely exaggerated. You know, that whole fountain of youth thing can get out of hand. But there have been some intriguing studies on NMN. For example, there was one where they gave mice a precursor to NAD+, that some of your body uses to create NAD+, just like NMN, and guess what?
Don't leave me hanging.
These mice ended up running way farther and for a lot longer than the mice who didn't get the supplement. They actually called them the Tour de France mice.
Hold on, are you serious? They were basically giving mice the NMN equivalent and they turned into marathon runners? That's amazing. But, like, mice aren't people, right? So how do we know if any of this translates to us humans?
You're right to be cautious. Mice studies are super interesting and often a great starting point. But we can't just extrapolate directly to humans. The good news is there have been some promising human studies on NMN too.
Okay, now you're talking. Tell me more.
So there was this one study where they gave NMN supplements to a group of older adults, and they saw some significant improvements in their muscle function and insulin sensitivity.
Wow, so it's not just about having the energy to run a marathon. It could actually impact our overall health. That's huge. Insulin sensitivity is a big deal when it comes to things like metabolism and blood sugar control.
Right. And it's still relatively early in terms of NMN research. That's why you hear that careful wording, potential benefits. We'll always want to be upfront about that. It's not like we have all the answers, but what we're seeing so far is definitely promising.
I have to admit, my cautious optimism is definitely peaked. But I also know from experience that the supplement world can be, well, a little tricky to navigate. Not all NMN supplements are created equal, right?
You hit the nail on the head. That's one thing I really want to emphasize. The quality of NMN supplements can vary drastically.
Oh, I bet. So for those listening who are thinking about maybe dipping their toes into the world of NMN, what should they keep in mind? Where do they even begin? Okay, you've convinced me the potential of NMN is definitely something to be excited about, but let's get practical. If someone's listening to this and they're thinking, all right, I want to try this NMN thing, what should they actually be looking for when they go to buy a supplement?
Yeah, it's a jungle out there. There are so many options, and honestly, it can be overwhelming.
Totally. So, where do we even begin?
First things first, you always want to look for NMN that's been third-party tested.
Okay, third-party tested. We hear that a lot with supplements, but remind me what that means exactly.
Basically, it means an independent lab has tested the supplement to make sure it actually contains what it says it does, and that it's free from any nasty stuff like heavy metals or other impurities.
Right. You don't want to be swallowing something you know nothing about. So that's step one, look for that third-party testing. What else is important?
Dosage is key. More isn't always better. Actually, it's often better to start with a lower dose and see how your body reacts.
So read the label carefully. And hey, maybe even chat with your doctor before adding something new to your routine. Can't hurt to get a professional opinion.
Absolutely. And speaking of the label, one thing to pay close attention to is the form of NMN.
Oh, right. You were talking about liposomal NMN earlier. Is that kind of what you're referring to?
Exactly. So remember we talked about how some things are absorbed better by our bodies than others? Well, liposomal NMN is designed to be absorbed really efficiently.
Because of those liposomes. Like tiny little protectors.
Yes. Think of them as tiny little submarines that protect the NMN on its journey through your digestive system. It's like comparing a package delivered in a flimsy envelope versus a reinforced, waterproof box.
So you're saying liposomal NMN might be more bang for your buck because more of it is actually getting to our cells?
That's the idea.
Yeah.
It does tend to be a little pricier, though, so it's something to keep in mind. But, if it means more of those beneficial NMN molecules are actually reaching their destination, it might be worth the extra cost for a lot of people.
Makes sense. Wow, you've given us a lot to think about. We've gone from zero to NMN experts in half an hour?
Well, I don't know about experts, but I hope you all feel more informed at least.
Me too. And you know what? This whole conversation has gotten me thinking, let's say, just for a moment, that NMN really does live up to all this potential supporting healthy aging, helping our bodies function better for longer. What do you think the implications of that are?
Oh, wow, that's a big question. I mean, we're not just talking about living longer. We're talking about living healthier for longer. That's huge.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where those age-related health issues we talked about are less common, where people can maintain their energy and focus and just overall well-being far into their later years. It could completely change how we think about aging.
It's like we're on the verge of redefining what it means to get older. It's a pretty incredible thought.
It really is. It's definitely an exciting time to be following this area of research.
It really is. But I think it's also important to remember what you said earlier. Even with all this incredible potential, NMN isn't some magic solution. It's not like we can just pop a pill and ignore all the other aspects of a healthy lifestyle.
Absolutely. It's all about working with our bodies, giving them the support they need to thrive. And that includes all the things we already know are good for us. A balanced diet, regular exercise, stress management, all that good stuff.
It's about seeing NMN as a potential tool in our toolbox, not the be-all and end-all solution. This has been such an insightful deep dive. Seriously, thank you so much for breaking down this whole NMN thing in a way that's both fascinating and understandable.
It was my pleasure. Always happy to geek out about science, especially when it has the potential to make a real difference.
And for our listeners who are feeling just as intrigued by NMN as we are, remember that Genuine Curity Liposomal NMN is sponsoring this episode. You can find a special discount code just for our amazing listeners in the show notes, so don't forget to check those out. And as always, thank you for joining us for another deep dive. We'll catch you next time, same place, ready to explore the latest and greatest in the world of health and wellness.